सगळे नोटिफिकेशन मध्ये जातो.
दीपक, हॅलो. अरे कोणीतरी रिस्पॉन्ड करा रे तिकडे. काय कोण नाहीये. मी दीपक दीपक करतोय तिकडे स्क्रीनवर. दीपक दीपक करतोय. कोणीतरी रिस्पॉन्ड करा रे. शेअर स्क्रीन दिसतोय की नाही दिसतोय आताच सांगा ना.
सर आता तुमच्या इथून मला झूमची स्क्रीन दिसतीये. हो, तुमचं पीपीटी जे आहे ना ते ओपन करा आणि मग त्याची स्क्रीन शेअर करा.
हो पण मी तेच म्हणतोय. आता बघा.
269.
आता बघा.
हो सर दिसतंय.
दिसतंय आता.
हो हो.
असंच ठेवायचंय की काय करायचंय आधी.
एक मिनिट. सर F5 करा म्हणजे फुल स्क्रीन दिसेल आणि मग तुम्हाला त्या एरोनी पुढे पुढे घेता येईल पेज डाऊन पेज.
हो ते सगळं माहितीये मला. पण काही वेळेला ते स्टार्टिंगला कोणी येणार आहे का आता चेअरमन वगैरे कोणी तर मग स्क्रीन नको असं म्हणतात.
हो सर येतात.
नंतर स्क्रीन लावा.
अभिषेक सर येतात. हो अभिषेक सर येतात सर.
सर गुड इव्हनिंग. नमस्कार.
नमस्कार चेअरमन सर.
कसे आहात सर?
बस बरं आहे बाबा. तुझ्या राज्यात. राज्य तुझं आहे ना. काय म्हणताय. किती लोक अपेक्षित आहेत?
सर आउट ऑफ 170 70 हॅव ऑलरेडी जॉईन्ड.
170 रजिस्ट्रेशन आहे का?
हो.
अच्छा अच्छा. ठीक आहे ठीक आहे. कधी सुरू करायचं सांगा.
हो 1-2 मिनिटात 5 मिनिटात करू सर सुरू.
ठीक आहे ठीक आहे. मी थोड्या वेळ म्यूट करू का मग?
हो प्लीज.
येस सुरू झालं. झालं.
Sir, we'll start. It's 5:05.
स्टार्ट करायचं?
Oh, sir.
नो प्रॉब्लेम.
Okay. Good evening, all the members. Namaskar. Welcome to this virtual CPE meet organized by Pune branch. Today we have with us CA Mangesh Kinare sir, past CCM. We all are familiar with the name and the personality. Sir, we welcome you to this virtual CP meet organized by Pune branch. And at the outset, let me express our gratitude for accepting our invitation and making it possible for to share your knowledge and wisdom regarding the topic of recent changes and important aspect on ICAI Code of Ethics. Dear members, as you are aware that from 1st July 2020, new Code of Ethics will be enacted, and all care has to be taken by all the members. New provisions are to be understood. That's why Pune branch is having a series of this lecture. We are also going to have few more lectures in the month of July. Uh, uh, for the month of June, this would be the last lecture on professional ethics. Before we proceed, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Mangesh Kinare sir. He is a qualified uh, uh, graduate in the commerce stream. He's completed his LLB. He is a fellow member of our institute. He has also completed diploma in information system audit. Uh, Talking about his personal experience, he has experience of more than 28 years. His main areas of practice are into GST and business consultancy. He has been he has held various positions at ICAI, and we all know him as a Central Council member. He was elected at WIRC during the year 2007 to 2010, then 2010 to 13, and 13 to 16. So consecutively for 3 terms, he was elected as WIRC Regional Council member. Uh, in the year 2010 to 2011, he served as secretary, and in the year 2013 to 14, he was chairman at WIRC. He became Central Council member during the year 2016 to 2019. He has held various committees at ICAI. He was vice chairman at Board of Studies, and you all are aware that he played a key role for formulating and implementing new CA curriculum that was launched on 1st July 2017. He had been chairman of Managing Accounting Committee, in which there was a diploma in management and business finance course which was launched at his during his chairmanship. He was also member of examination committee of ICAI. He was member of bench of disciplinary committee of ICAI for 2 years. He was also vice chairman as taxation audit review board. He was vice chairman at economic and commercial laws and WTO of ICAI. He was vice chairman at cooperative and NPO committee. He was also a member of indirect tax committee, and which has contributed and represented in many delegations of ICAI on GST and various at the various meetings with the government. So with this brief introduction, I welcome Mangesh Kinare sir. Once again, I would like to thank for accepting our invitation. I would like you to share, sir, your as you were disciplinary committee member for more than 2 years. So if you could also share some of your experience, how our chartered accountant friends, fellow friends should take care, and uh, uh, the utmost care can be taken in understanding the new law also. So with this, I hand over session to you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Abhishek, Chairman of Branch. I don't know about any other managing committee members if they are present or in absentia. First of all, let me thank Pune branch for giving me this opportunity to put my views on Code of Ethics. पुण्याच्या लोकांपुढे बोलणं म्हणजे थोडंसं जपून बोलायला लागतं. So this subject I have been speaking for last couple of years, and in this COVID-19 pandemic situation also, this web lecture, I think this might be my around 10th lecture or so on Code of Ethics. Now, basically, I start the session always by wishing and praying that every one of us, or every one of you and me and everybody, let's be safe and let's have a good health. And I pray that to the God that every one of us should come through from this pandemic situation, and so that we can personally meet again and exchange our views and gestures personally, because there is certain limitations on meeting on webinars and all. Even for a speaker also, at times it becomes difficult because you are just speaking to yourself, as if it is you are speaking to yourself. So it's better to have looking at the faces, understanding whether a person is understood or not, or person has any issues. But yes, there are the problems right now we are facing, and I'm pretty sure that every one of us will come through this, and we will be able to meet each other once again very soon. And I'm sure Abhishek or any future chairman also of Pune branch will invite me for a physical meeting in future. With this preamble, praying that all should be safe. जसं म्हणतात ना की पोट भरलेलं असेल तर मग पुढचे एथिक्स बिथिक्स गोष्टी असतात, त्यामुळे जीव सुरक्षित असेल तर एथिक्स असणार आपला, right? So I'm pretty sure we'll be safe, and so we'll have to follow the ethics, and especially in our profession, this code of ethics institute is making this kind of a drive of awareness, because they have made a compulsory 2 hours or something of that sort. It's compulsory for everyone to attend on ethics. This is basically a compulsion in the sense that to spread the awareness, because efforts have been taken to recast this entire code of ethics, and now awareness amongst the members should be spread, and there is a perception gap in the society and our performance that can be cemented if we follow the code of ethics. I'm not saying that we are not following the code of ethics, but if we demonstrate the code of ethics, there perhaps many of us are lagging behind. And from that perspective, Institute has taken this drive, I suppose, to spread the awareness on code of ethics. Just to introduce the topic very quickly in 2 slides or so. Our chartered accountancy course has been recognized. We all know that it has a repute, it is of a repute, and everyone recognize it, chartered accountant with a high esteem. You will all agree that that is, of course, examination system, our professional conduct, etc., or the value addition is, of course, plays an important role. But you will all agree that on its own, it should not have been that much unless we could have an international recognition also. Our institute is a member of International Federation of Accountants, which is an umbrella body of all the accounting bodies of all the countries in the world. And it's not only a member of IFAC, but it's an important member of IFAC. You know that in next year, in 2022, we are going to have an International Accounting Congress in Mumbai. So much important member we are, so that such an international event has been allotted to us. Now, when an international, any accounting body has to become a member of an International Federation of Accountants, they will have to follow certain principles, certain rules and regulations framed by IFAC. IFAC has its own body called for the purpose of laying down the ethical standards or ethics, code of ethics for member bodies. And it's called as International Ethics Standard of Accountant, or ASBA. Now, generally the member bodies are expected to adopt or adapt their code of ethics from the ASBA code of ethics. ASBA, therefore, we have adopted the code of ethics in 2009 from ASBA code of ethics of 2005. Now, friends, 10-11 years have gone, and therefore Institute thought it proper that the code of ethics should be revamped as per the latest developments and latest pronunciations by ASBA. Accordingly, on the basis of ASBA code of ethics of 2018, the Institute has adopted and Institute had framed the code of ethics of 2019. On 4th February 2019, these code of ethics were approved as a guideline in the council. Now, earlier code of ethics, that is code of ethics 2009. I am saying earlier because in 10 days perhaps it will become earlier, but right now it is a current code of ethics. As of today, it is 2009 code of ethics which is applicable to us. So earlier, this 2009 code of ethics has 2 parts, part A and part EB. Part A consists of fundamental, or rather principles of ethics, or the kind of aspects which we have to follow in the ethics, code of ethics. Whereas part B is consisting of the application material by which we can follow these principles which are laid down in part A. For example, if some principle is laid down regarding, say, communication in part A, part B lays down that how communication has to be given, what are the council guidelines in this regard. So all these pronouncements, etc., are there in part B. So when the code of ethics has been changed in 2019, this part A and part B now have been recasted completely in the sense they have been reformed in that sense. And part A will be now called volume 1, and part B will be called volume 2. Whereas additional volume 3 has been introduced by the Institute in this code of ethics, which consists of the glossary or the compilation of case studies or disciplinary matters, which have disciplinary laws, which pronunciation which have been done by the disciplinary committee. So now our code of ethics will consist of volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3. Volume 1 and 3 are already published. It is there on the website also. Volume 2, this slide mentions that revised version of this volume 2 will be released shortly. But today only I have got a news, because this just made in the morning. Made this slides, and today only I have got a news that volume 2 also has now been published, and it will be, I think it might have come on site by now. I have not checked it, so it might have come on the website also. With volume, there are certain FAQs also have been released, I am told. So now I think entire code is available on ICAI website. We can go through it, we can understand it. Now, for the purpose of better understanding, this session is organized. So before you read it, there is this kind of a session. If you are attending, I think reading will be very easy. Now, in the code of ethics, these principles have not changed. The fundamental principles have not changed. It says that a chartered accountant has to follow these 5 fundamental principles. Now, we as a practicing chartered accountant, or as a chartered accountant who are there in the profession for some years now, I think these are not to be explained in detail. So I'm not going to explain these in detail, because whatever revisions have taken place, I will take it, and whatever main principles are there, that I will take it. But we all know that these are the 5 fundamental principles. At the back of the mind, everybody knows perhaps, that is integrity, objectivity, professional competence in due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. We are supposed to be honest. We are supposed to be not influenced by anybody else. We are supposed to be having complete knowledge of what we are doing. That is a professional competence. We should have a professional competence in what jobs we perform, or what kind of services we render. And in those services, with this knowledge, with this entire professional competence, we are supposed to take care. We are supposed to take due care of what we are doing, on what we are expressing an opinion, what kind of services we are rendering. So we must have competence also, and with this competence, we must render the services with taking due care about the quality of my service. Confidentiality, as you all know, that chartered accountant is said to be a financial doctor. So as a doctor has keeps always the confidentiality about the patient, we are also supposed to keep complete about the matters or affairs of the our clients, which they will be always exposing to us, or they will be always disclosing to us. So confidentiality is another fundamental principle. And the last one, and I think one which covers everything again, that is the professional behavior. We are not only supposed to follow the relevant laws and regulations, but our action should be, our entire conduct should be in a professional manner. So I think this professional behavior fundamental principle will cover everything for that matter, whether in profession or not in profession. And that's how we are supposed to present ourselves, conduct ourselves. And that is what is expected from a chartered accountant. Now, when we are, Abhishek, just give me a feedback whether the slides are moving or not properly, if you are there, or any member can give me feedback. Now, when we follow this fundamental principle, there are certain threats which occur in our observance or conduct or following these fundamental principles. So these are these 5 threats: self-interest threat, self-review threats, advocacy threat, familiarity threat, and intimidation threat. Now, self-interest threat means one gets developed the interest in what one is doing, and then one is not completely independent. One is not completely having integrity. If I'm interested in what I'm performing, then I will not be that much independent. I will not be looking at as a complete professional skepticism. So that is an issue with when we develop an interest. When there is another issue is regarding self-review threat. Many times we only set up the systems, or we only set up the kind of a accounting atmosphere in the client's place, and then we are only conducting the audit of it. So we are actually auditing, we are actually reviewing of what we have done earlier. Now when we review what I have done earlier, if I have say consulted regarding certain entries or certain kind of aspects of the business, then I am again auditing that business. Means what? I am reviewing my work. When I'm reviewing my work, naturally I will not be objective. I will not be independent enough. So I will be definitely biased in that sense. And that is called self-review threat. Advocacy threat is perhaps similar to self-review threat. Whenever I'm going to represent a client in some against some authority or in front of some authorities with what I have already audited. So an audited balance sheet, if I take to the banks for a bank proposal, or to the income tax or any taxation department for assessment, naturally my views are based at times, in audit views. Now tomorrow I know that I have to represent a case in income tax. So how the income tax officer will perceive, according to that, at the back of the mind, somewhere or the other, I start developing my audit procedures also. So that is called advocacy threat. So I will try and audit, or I will try and perform my professional service according to what I have to advocate, according to what I have to represent. So that is an advocacy threat. And at times that will affect the competency or independence in the, or objectivity in the audit. That is a advocacy threat. Familiarity threat is a threat which generally a small and medium chartered accountant face day in and day out. We are so much familiar with our clients, that we at times tend to overlook certain things. मालूम है यार, वो क्यों देखना है, हर साल मैं देख रहा हूँ, 10-12 साल हो गए, अब ये तो सब सेम रहेगा. So that kind of a threat is a familiarity threat, and then we don't take at times unknowingly, I'm not saying knowingly, due care. No, we don't take due care in performance of our job. I will of course discuss the instances subsequently, but this is nothing but a familiarity threat, and naturally my professional service quality of service suffers to that extent. Intimidation threat is suffered especially when I have a major client, and if I give any adverse comment, I have a fear in my mind that I may lose that client. He may go to the other chartered accountant tomorrow. So that is an intimidation threat in my mind, which prevents at times, obstacles at times in expressing my opinion freely. So again, it will have impact or adverse impact on the observance of this fundamental principle. So what is the process which has been mentioned in volume 1, just for our understanding, that whenever I get any work or whenever I have to perform certain work, I have to check whether any of these threats is going to have adverse impact on my fundamental observance of fundamental principles during the time of that service or not. If these adverse impact is going to happen, I perceive any threat, there are certain safeguards which have been discussed in this code of ethics. I'm not going in detail of safeguards, because if I discuss each and every aspect of this code of ethics, I don't think even 3.5 hours or 4 hours session is sufficient. So I just touch upon certain aspects, because in guidelines there are so many guidelines. If I start going in detail of those guidelines, the time is not sufficient. So these safeguards are being discussed. Basically, these safeguards are regarding the systems and processes which we follow, the kind of review can be done by somebody else of our work done. Then there can be a documentation of different types. That is all being discussed in volume 1. So please refer to that. So my process will be, I will assess whether there are any threats for following the fundamental principles. If there are any threats, I will apply the safeguards. After applying the safeguards also, if my threats are not being reduced or evaporated, then I will think whether my work I will accept or not. But at compromise. So that is what is the actual broad outline of code of ethics. Now on the basis of this, certain principles have been laid down and certain application materials there. We will see that. So what are the changes in volume 1? I cannot take entire earlier part A or volume 1 So we will try and take 3-4 important changes in volume 1, which are going to have long-running impact, or which are actually the drastic changes in this code. Now, what are those changes? The first change is non-compliance with laws and regulations. This has been introduced in this volume 1 code of ethics. If you can see here, in this code of ethics, there are sections which are mentioned. Now, when you mention the section, it means completely it is a codified code of ethics, right? It is not simply because some principles have been laid down. So section 260 and 360 mentions about non-compliance with laws and regulations, or we call it as NOCLAR provision. Now, let me tell you that, friends, in the beginning only, that we may not be aware, but this is not completely new provision to us, although it's a completely enhancing the scope. But somewhere it has been touched upon in some manner in our standards on auditing 250, 250. Principles has been discussed that we'll have to follow this to a certain extent, but it has more come emphatically in the code of ethics, in the sense that we have now to have to follow it. What is these principles? Generally, when we do the audits of any entity, may it be tax audit or statutory audit under Companies Act or Cooperative Act or whatever it may be, what laws we look into? We look into the laws which are under which we are doing the audit. If it is a company audit, company law, income tax in income tax law, cooperative audit in cooperative law, then any other law which is concerning the financial statements, right? There can be taxation laws, GST, income tax, or VAT, or customs, or at times profession tax, or some kind of a PF, ESI, this type of law, banking laws, for example. But there are certain other laws which are other than beyond these laws, which are connected or concerned with day-to-day running of the business, right? For example, if it's a software company doing a software business, then data protection laws. If it is a chemical factory or a pharmaceutical company, then it's a kind of for pharmaceutical and food industry, FDA is there. Then chemical factory or those kind of factories are there. Then there is environmental laws. Now see, all these laws, generally we don't look into it. Now, even if there are certain instances, how we will look into it if it is having any impact on the financial statements. Now, what does this NOCLAR provision expects is, while providing my professional service, if I come across any violation or any non-compliance of laws and regulations by client or employer, I will not turn blind eye to it, right? Because what I am doing is, I know that I have to perform my duty in the best interest, best public interest, correct? So when I have to serve the public interest, I should not turn blind eye to the non-compliances of these other laws also. And if at all there is a non-compliance is there, I should bring it to the notice of those people who are charged with the governance. Now, friends, those people who are charged with the governance means who are at the helm of the affairs of the company. And if there is any serious violation or serious non-compliance, then I can escalate the matter to the regulator also. Now, very importantly, therefore, you will understand that this provision has increased the scope of our audit to infinity, so to say, because all the laws I am supposed to check. I don't have to only check the financial laws or the laws which are impacting the financial law. I have to check all the laws. But friend, does that mean that whenever I'm going for an audit, whether I have to follow this law? If you can see in the last bullet point on this slide, as per ASBA, which are the laws, which are other laws which the chartered accountant, it's an illustrative list which is given. If you see here, fraud, corruption and bribery, security markets, money laundering, terrorist financing, data protection, environmental protection, public health and safety, so on and so forth. This is an illustrative list, and you can very well imagine that what kind of laws we'll have to know if we want to go to audit. Now, whether we should go master these all laws, we are supposed to master these all laws and go for an audit? No, it is not what is expected from us. Otherwise, it is impossible for anybody to conduct an audit. What is expected or what is required is, if you see the very first which I have underlined, while providing the professional service, when I am called to do an audit, if I observe any non-compliance, then I should not say that, okay, financially iska koi impact nahi hai, so I will not look into it. That is the meaning of it. I'll give you a very simple example. in a tax audit of a chemical factory, I find that there is a non-compliance with certain environmental laws, and therefore a penalty has been charged for non-compliance of the environmental laws. Now, what generally I will do regarding this, I will put it in, say that if it is a company, then Caro I'll report somewhere, and otherwise in a tax audit report, I'll say that penalties which are disallowable, and I feel that my job is over. Say lakh of rupees penalty is there, so I'll put lakh of rupees disallowable. I feel that my job is over. Now, this NOCLAR provision, what requires is your job should not, you must assess because of this penalty or because of this kind of a non-compliance with environmental law, whether there is any threat to the complete business of the company, whether the company is going to suffer any losses in future, whether it faces a threat of a going concern. Now, all these aspects one should analyze, and one should report to those charged with governance. If it is very serious or a fraudulent matter, it should be escalated to the regulator. So that is a kind of a NOCLAR provision. If these non-compliance are inconsequential in nature, or any personal default by any director, or that kind of thing is there, then of course it need not be reported. But one has to see that if in the course of the providing the professional service, if this kind of thing is noticed, one should bring it. I have mentioned here, if you can see the one third point, that if the appropriate authority will depend upon the nature of the matter. So if there is a fraudulent transactions in the financial reporting, then the matter even can be escalated to the CPE or RBI or this kind of an authority. So one has to escalate the matter if it is of that nature. So friends, this is a very major change, and it has brought a very, very important advancement or increase the scope of financial reporting. Of course, as I said in the beginning, Institute adopts or adapts the code of ethics of ASBA, any member body. So whenever Institute takes that code of ethics, Institute will have to will changes, or any member body makes certain changes depending upon the local scenario. So Institute also knows that many of our members are in Mofussil area, and it will take time to percolate these principles down. And therefore, initially, this has been made applicable to the listed entities. So listed entities only it is applicable from 1st July 2020. As we all know that this code is going to come implemented on 1st July 2020, hopefully. Because of this COVID situation, we never know if it is a little bit more extended also. But this NOCLAR principle will be applicable in this year, 1st July 2020 onwards, to the listed entities and only to the audits which are audit assignments in India. So at present, those small and medium practitioners who are not having listed entities need not be worried about this NOCLAR provision. But at the same time, one should be very clear in the mind that this is here now to stay. This principle is here to stay, and therefore it is now kabhi na kabhi, at times at 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever years, it will percolate down to the next level of entities, of audit of next level of entities. And it is applicable to all types of audits, right? And therefore one has to, one can say that one can play like a trial overs. One can keep this at the back of the mind while performing our duties, although it is not applicable to us. Why not to simply see whether these kind of things occur in the during the audit, and if it occurs, then at least find out the reasons for it, right? That is a NOCLAR principle and extending the scope. And this is a one major change which has happened in this Code of Ethics Volume 1. There is a next change which is there in the changes in professional appointment. Change in the sense that whenever I'm saying change, it does not only mean that is NOCLAR is of course a new provision, but certain changes are made in this Code of Ethics are in such a manner that the principles which are otherwise stated in somewhere else, some other guidelines, some other announcements, have been now properly introduced in a codified manner in this Code of Ethics. So it is more emphatically stated now in the Code of Ethics. So this is the change of that sort only. The Know Your Client policy, which was pronounced by Institute on 1st January 2017 by way of mandatory guidelines, now has been included in Code of Ethics. Now this Know Your Client policy has been introduced in Code of Ethics, and therefore now everybody will have to follow this. Now, typically, we have the clients coming for audit from tax consultants at times in more official areas. We never know also whatever changes in constitution, etc. of the client. So now this policy requires that we must keep it every year, that know your client policy, whether there are any changes in the client's constitutions, client's addresses, we should keep it all with us. It's a mandatory. It was mandatory. It is mandatory now. There is another important change which has happened. You can see the last point on this slide. That earlier in the change of, so far in the change of auditors or change of professional appointments, the communication has to be made with the previous auditor. We'll see that later on. But the previous auditor was not having any kind of binding on him that he should respond and all. Now, this provision very clearly puts a duty or obligation on the predecessor accountant to respond and to comply with the laws governing the request and provide the information which has been asked by the earlier accountant, the subsequent auditor or the new auditor, honestly and unambiguously. We'll discuss this in detail when we come to the volume 2 in respect of this point. But principle has been laid down now that duty has been casted, the obligation has been casted on the predecessor accountant or auditor to respond to the communication, right? So one cannot simply ignore these kind of communications. So very important, this is the important change which has been introduced. Next, another important change which has happened, perhaps this was already there as a self-regulatory measure. It has now been tightened a little bit as well as rationalized a little bit, I can see. In our guidance note on independence of auditors existing, which is there is already a principle which has been laid down that if I get fees from my audit client and its sister concern for audit and other services, and that fees is in excess of my 40% of my gross fees, I cannot perform the audit of that client. That is a self-review measure which has been mentioned in the guidance note on independence of auditors. Correct? Now that has now been replaced by this new provision under section 410. This new provision says that for 2 consecutive years, if my gross annual fees from the audit client and its related entities for audit as well as other works represent more than 15% of my total fees, then I, as a firm of chartered accountant, should bring it to the notice of those charged with governance. So I'll have to inform that client that now your fees or your fees from your sister concerns, etc., is more than 15% of my gross fees. So what is the use of that? There is a chance of a review of this work. There can be a chance of a review of quality control. I have to undertake the review of quality control. You can go through this section. This section is very elaborate on this. Now, friends, this restriction is, or this kind of a provision is not applicable where the total fees, professional fees, is not exceeding rupees 5 lakhs. So very small practitioner, it will not have an impact. Secondly, it will also not have implied or application when it will not be applicable where I am getting the fees for the fees which have been got from the government or empaneled work, where I get a work from CNAG empanelment or RBI empanelment and so on and so forth. So that government empaneled work, this restriction is not applicable. Now there is a difference between this restriction and the earlier self-regulatory measure. The difference not only in percentage, earlier it was 40, now it is in 15. But earlier it was, if last year if I am exceeding 40% of fees, this year I cannot accept. Whereas now it has been very clearly clarified in this provision also, and if you can see on your screen, in the clarification dated for 11th May by the Institute on the website, it is there, this clarification, that this restriction is basically for for 2 consecutive years such fees goes ahead. Then in 3rd year I have to check. 3rd year I have to check this. Now that is one major difference. Of course, 40% limit has come down to 15%. But earlier provision self-regulatory measure was prohibiting me from taking the work. This provision is not prohibiting you from taking the work. So there is no bar on taking that work in the 3rd year. Only thing is that certain care has to be taken in the 3rd year. Certain reviewing principles have to be done for last couple of years. work which I have done to maybe by third party or me, I'll have to review it if I'm competent enough independently, and I'll have to bring it to the notice of those charged with government. So typically, there's no bar now, but one will definitely, the percentage has been reduced from 40% to 15%. So in that sense, this is going to be a very strict control on our professional work for our major clients. Now, friends, there have been certain, I'm told that I'm not privy to any information in the council, but I'm told that there are certain representations, or there are certain members have represented, and there may be some tinkering. I'm not saying right now there will be a change, but there may be in future some change or some kind of a more clarification, some kind of a more structured way of reporting to those charged with governance, some kind of a structured way of taking a follow-up action will be suggested by the institute in this regard. But this is a provision, new provision, which has come in the Code of Ethics, Volume 1, Section 410. Then Section 608, very important provisions which have been included now. That is, the firm of chartered accountant or CA in practice shall not assume the management responsibility for the audit client. Very important. We cannot step into the shoes. If I'm performing any audit for my client, may it be a income tax audit or company audit or any kind of a statutory audit, I cannot step into the shoes of the management for any duties of that client. Very important for small and medium practitioners, knowingly on record, we enter into a management duties. I'm not going in detail of that, but what is explained here is what is management duties and what is not management duties, that we should understand. Providing advice and recommendations to the client to assist the management of an audit client are not its management responsibilities. Correct? We are allowed to give administrative services to the client, but very importantly, illustrations of these administrative services which are given in Code of Ethics are very, very, very relevant to us. If you can see, word processing services, preparing administrative or statutory forms for clients' approval, very important, for clients' approval. Submitting such forms as instructed by the clients. So these forms, I can prepare it, but for approval of client, I cannot submit it unless it is instructed by the client to submit such forms. And monitoring statutory filing dates and advising an audit client on those dates. Now, friends, very importantly, clients' approval, clients' instructions are very, very, very important in this case. Many of us assume that client has instructed. Chalo, theek hai, phone pe le liya permission, abhi return file karu, haan kar do. Friends, these are not our duties. Filing of return, preparation of return forms are not our duties, and therefore, this should be the clear-cut instruction should be taken from the client in this regard. Now, otherwise, it will become a management duty which we are providing, and therefore, if it has to be an administrative service, then the clear-cut instructions will have to be taken from the management to render such services or to go ahead with such services. So, needless to say, when we file the returns for client, even in case of course, in case of audit clients, it is 100% compulsory. But I will suggest that for all types of client, I think it is very much necessary that these forms, etc., are approved by the client and expressly approved by the client. And when it is submitted under the express instructions of the clients to submit it. Please take this very seriously because there can be a lot of issues in this in future. Correct? So this is the administrative services, the thin line of demarcation between management responsibility and administrative services lies in a proper documentation. If we have a proper documentation, we'll be able to prove that this is nothing but an administrative service rendered to the client. Now, there are already existing prohibitions in 2009 code regarding internal audit and accounting services cannot be done by the auditor. And these are still there in 2019 Code of Ethics also. There is additional prohibition in terms of the recruitment services. Recruitment services cannot be provided to an audit client. that has been mentioned in this new code now. There is one more important change which I think I should discuss with you, and that is regarding the taxation services. Now, we provide a lot of taxation services to the audit clients also. Now, when we provide these services, certain threats might be created, and those threats have been highlighted in this section 604 of Code of Ethics 2019, Volume 1. At times, threats have been discussed, so we'll have to apply the safeguards and have a documentation for application of that safeguards. And if you see here further, certain services are prohibited. Now, tax return preparation, usually there is no threat that has been mentioned. But I again refer to the earlier slide. I mean, I'm not going there, but earlier slide should be very clear that tax return preparation should be an administrative service. So it should be under the complete instructions and approval of the client. Tax calculation for the purpose of preparing accounting entries. Now, it is very clearly mentioned that it will create a self-review thread, because I will make a tax calculation and I will make an entry. Entry will be made on that basis, and then I'll be auditing that entries. So naturally, I am reviewing my own work, and therefore certain precautions should be taken, certain safeguards should be taken, whether if it's a partnership firm, whether that can be done by another partner who is not signing the audit report. So that kind of care can be taken. Similarly, for tax planning and advisory services also, self-review and advocacy threats are bound to be there. So basically, we'll have to use other professional service. If it's a partnership firm, if it's not proprietor, we can take another expert services for that. So appropriate review will have to be taken in this regard. Very important. It has come in Code of Ethics specifically. So certain documentation will have to keep it with us whenever we are giving such kind of services. Valuation services, if I'm doing, if it has a direct impact on financial statements, I'm not supposed to do the valuation services as far as tax services involving the valuation. Last point is very relevant: assistance in resolution of tax disputes. Many times we assist the clients or for the resolution of tax disputes. It might create a self-review or an advocacy threat. So appropriate safeguards, as mentioned earlier also, will have to be adopted in this regard. This line, the further line, is very important. It is not to be provided if it involves acting as an advocate for audit client or amounts involved are material to the financial statements on which the firm will express an opinion. So the disputes amount is very material, then I should not assist in the resolution of tax dispute. If I'm supposed to act as an advocate in the appellate matters, I cannot act in this appellate matters as an advocate wherever I am doing an audit. So for the same client, I cannot conduct an audit and I cannot represent that client in an appellate matter as an advocate. Now, this is very, very, very important change. To my mind, disputes means what? Assessment is not a dispute. The income tax or GST assessment or adjudication is not a dispute. It is just a first assessment. Dispute starts when the assessment is over. So according to me, if I'm acting as an advocate for appellate matters of my audit client, it will be clearly breach of this code, breach of this provision of this code. So I cannot act as an advocate in a appellate matters for my audit client. If I'm doing a tax practice, no problem. I'm not auditing that client, no problem. You can do any kind of work, taxation work for that client. These are the major changes in Volume 1. I thought that I'll take these 4 or 5 major changes. We'll go to the Volume 2. Volume 2 talks about different materials. So the provisions I have mentioned in the black font, certain commentaries are there, that those are there in red font, and changes have been discussed or mentioned in the purple font for your reference. Now, Volume 2 coverage is a Chartered Accountant Act. These are important provisions regarding which are relating to the Code of Ethics, and of course Chartered Accountant regulations, which I thought that I have not mentioned here. CA Act and CA regulation. Then there are Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 to CA Act, accounting standard, auditing standard, guidance note, council guidelines, announcements, self-regulatory measures, announcements of clarification by Ethical Standard Board. All these formulate the Volume 2. Earlier, all these provisions or all these things were scattered. All announcements and etc. Guidance, guidelines have been published by the institute. Naturally, once the code is pronounced, Then certain further guidelines which were issued, they were in different places. Now these have been compiled and put in the volume 2. And I suppose any further guideline or any further announcement will also get added to this volume 2 in future. So this is a volume 2. We'll discuss the major changes and also important aspect, because simply discussing major changes would not be sufficient. It is better to refurbish our knowledge on the important aspects also. So I'm going to refer to certain, discuss these aspects with reference to the provisions or the clauses of Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. There are 2 schedules to the Chartered Accountants Act. Schedule 1, I mean, these schedules are describing or pronouncing the misconducts, the circumstances or the clauses of misconducts by the Chartered Accountants. Now, these professional misconducts have been described in Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Schedule 1 consists of the professional misconducts which are so of an internal kind of nature, that is regarding partnership, regarding communication with another chartered accountant, whereas misconducts which are defined in Schedule 2 are when we are exposed to the outside world, regarding the expressing the opinion on financial statements, regarding preparing certain kind of certificates, and so on and so forth. So naturally, the Schedule 1 misconducts or the clauses of Schedule 1 which raise to misconduct arises because of violation of those clauses. Now, those misconducts are, I can say, lesser in gravity in terms of punishment. The punishment for violation of clauses of Schedule 1 are maximum punishments under disciplinary proceedings, are maximum suspension of COP for 3 months, maximum financial penalty of ₹1 lakh, or reprimand letter, or combination of any of these. Whereas the punishments for violation of clauses in Schedule 3 are maximum suspension or termination of certificate of practice for lifetime, maximum financial penalty of ₹5 lakhs, or reprimand letter, or combination of any of these things. So naturally, Schedule 2 misconducts are much more grave in terms of punishments. We'll look into the certain aspects with reference to the clauses of these schedule. I mentioned these clauses. So first thing is the sharing of fees or profits. Certain cases also I discussed, as Abhishek has mentioned in this. Now, sharing of fees or profits with members. No, we are not allowed, as a practicing chartered accountant, we are not allowed to share the fees or our profits or in terms of commission with anybody else except the member of the institute or partner or retired partner, or legal representative of a deceased partner, or member of any other professional body, or with such other persons having such qualifications as may be prescribed. Now, I cannot share with somebody, that is explained in clause 2. Clause 3 is a mirror clause. I cannot take share from somebody, right? So clause 2 and 3 are mirror clauses of each other. So I cannot give the share, I cannot take the share. So that is explained in clause 2 and clause 3. I cannot give or take the share, right? Except for, I can't give it with anybody except for member, my partner, or deceased partner, or retired partner, or legal representative of deceased partner, that we all know. Importantly, or with a member of such other professional body or having such other professional qualification as may be prescribed. Now, which are those professional bodies and professional qualification with whom I can share my fees or profits? It is explained in Regulation 53A and 53B of Chartered Accountants Regulation 1988. The prescribed professional bodies are Institute of Company Secretary, Institute of Cost and Works Accountant, Bar Council, so on, and Institute of Architects, Actuaries, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going in detail. It is there in front of your screen. So practically, I can share the fees, I can give the share, or I can take the share in my fees or profits from these professionals, Company Secretary, ICWAs, etc., etc. Now, friends, what do you mean by sharing the fees? Now, when I perform the work together, now say for example, myself and the company secretary is performing the work together. We have executed the work together. The fees is given by one fee. Then either he or me will have to share the fees with each other. That is a sharing. That type of sharing is allowed to us by this regulation 53A. But friends, we cannot enter into partnership. That we'll see in the next slide. So that can be shared without entering into a partnership. So if this is allowed, then what is the issue of what is the point of giving this clause? Then what kind of share? But other fees members, I cannot share the fees with anybody else. I'll give you a very classic case which had come in front of our bench. There was a chartered accountant who was very newly qualified. So he wanted to have an office, but you all know that in a very beginning, big office, kind of a individual office is not possible. So various places there are business centers or giving a table space to a chartered accountants or any professionals for that matter. So this fellow went to for some table space. Now he didn't have money to give in the beginning, so he entered into an agreement with the landlord saying that in the first couple of years, so much percentage of my turnover I will give it to you. I will disclose the entire thing to you. I will mention this entire thing to you honestly, and so much percentage I will give it to you. Now, that was accepted that point of time by landlord, but when the dispute arose, that landlord only filed a case against that chartered accountant with the institute that he has violated this clause 2 and shared his fees with me. He has agreed to share his fees with me and he has shared his fees with me. So we cannot share or we cannot give any share or profits, share of profits to anybody else. And therefore, we cannot take, typically referring the case to the banks or referring the case to the insurance company. They say that we can give you some kind of a pay to you. We're not allowed to take certain such paybacks also. Right? We cannot take share. We cannot give any share other than these people. Now, where it is a statutorily allowed to give the share, there is no bar on it. So you all know that in the Maharashtra Cooperative Societies, some years before, it is stipulated that 20% of the fees will be deposited with the government. So if it is allowed statutorily, it is allowed, no problem. Now, interestingly, if you see the purple font at the end of this slide, there is new commentary come in an explicit manner in this clause 3. Now, what is that commentary? Says that referral fees amongst the members has now been permitted under the commentary. Now, referral fees amongst the members has been permitted. Referral fees is not permitted with these professionals. Sharing of fees is permitted with this professional. There's a difference between sharing and referral. Sharing means I am performing the work and therefore I am sharing the fees. Referral means I am referring some professional work to you. I am not doing anything in that professional work and therefore this fees is been referral fees is received by me. So referral fees is allowed only amongst the members and not with these people. Correct? Now, again, there is a difference between referral. To my mind, I interpret all this provision very conservatively. Referral fees, if you refer to volume 1, there is a specific mention of referral fees in a volume 1. Now, what does volume 1 mention? Volume 1 clearly mentions these provisions regarding referral fees, that referral fees can be in respect of continuing or ongoing or existing client. Now, what does that mean? It means that if I am performing any GST work for a client, he comes to me tomorrow saying that I want to have this bank finance, so can you arrange this bank finance for me? I said that this is not my core area, but one of my friend does this, so go to that friend, he will do it for you. Now, if the work is performed on my referral by that chartered accountant for him, then what I am getting is a referral fee. It is for my existing client. Now, please remember, it should be your existing client if it is to be referral fees. It means that suppose tomorrow some work comes to me directly, who is not my client at all. Then I said that, no, I am not performing this work. You go to somebody else. I am referring it to somebody else. Now, whatever I am getting from that is not a referral fee because he is not my continuing or existing client. So there's a subtle difference. Please remember, referral fee is allowed. In volume 1 also, it is very clearly mentioned this principle that it is allowed for the existing client or the ongoing client. This is regarding sharing of fees and profits. The next is regarding the partnerships. We all know that we cannot enter into partnership with people other than chartered accountant in practice. But there is an exception to it. It has been mentioned that it should be allowed. Right? It can be allowed with those people who are given in the earlier slide we have seen, persons qualified, CS, ICW, etc. So this clause 4 of part 1 of first schedule does not prohibit us from entering into partnership with these other professionals. Right? The queries many times come to the institute that whether multidisciplinary partnerships are allowed or not. And that's why this explanation is there, and that's why I'm taking this clause also. It has been explained in this code of ethics that we have no restriction in our code. This clause 4 does not prohibit in entering into partnership with others. But those other professionals or other bodies also should come out with this kind of provision, which is not there in their law or their act. Similarly, if it is not there, naturally the formation of firm is not possible because the modalities of registration of such firms have not been formed by ICAI. And therefore, it is being very clearly clarified to put full stop to all the debates why our institute is not allowing MDP. Institute has not restricted per se. There is an enabling provision in our law, but other professions do not have such kind of provision. So MDP, multidisciplinary partnership, is not allowed till the regulators of other professions allow it, like our regulation allow. And after allowing it, then we will think, ICAI will think of forming certain modalities, certain rules regarding the formation of this multidisciplinary. After that, it can be allowed. So right now, it is not allowed for this reason. That is regarding partnership. Important solicitations and advertisements we can discuss. There are so many changes in this of solicitation. There are so many issues also. There are 3 clauses of part 1 of first schedule which are concerning or which are relating to this solicitation or advertisements by chartered accountant, etc. Clause 5, 6 and 7. 5 talks about we cannot secure the work by the means which are not permitted to us. We can secure the work either through the services of a person who is our employee or chartered accountant, right? Or my partner. I can secure the work from him. But otherwise, I cannot go on asking the work to many other people. You know, certain people or certain young chartered accountants, after they become a CA, they simply write, they print, what they do is print first the letterhead, and then people start writing because they also want to have work. So they start writing to the banks, companies, etc. Whether if you have concurrent auditors panel, I understand that you have a panel, so kindly include my profile in that and all these kind of things. So such kind of applications, rowing inquiries, unless there is a counter inquiry to you, you cannot respond to, you can respond to such inquiry, but otherwise without just having any knowledge, we cannot go on asking for the work from door to door, from person to person. So that is this clause. We are not allowed to ask such work. Now, clause 6 talks about solicitation of professional work. So we cannot solicit the work. Practicing chartered accountant cannot solicit the work directly or indirectly by circular, advertisement, personal communication, or interview, or by any other means. So solicitation, any act of us should not amount to the solicitation of work. We are not allowed to do. We are not allowed to solicit the work from others. Now, there are 2 exceptions to it. Number 1 is I can apply to a chartered accountant or request a chartered accountant for or invite, or no, I can ask for some work from another chartered accountant in practice. So if I send a message to another chartered accountant in practice, I am talking about chartered accountant, not on the group of WhatsApp group. So if I send a message to another chartered accountant asking if you have any work, there is no violation as such. So yeah, I'm allowed to do that. Second exception is responding to the tenders. I can respond to tenders. Now, so it is subject to the tendering guidelines issued by the Institute on 7th April 2016. Now, tendering, what does this tendering guideline talks about? Tendering guideline says it has divided the work in 2 parts. One, where the work is, professional work is statutorily restricted to a chartered accountant. And the second type of work, which is not statutorily restricted to chartered accountant. For example, company audits or bank audits or income tax audit, 44AB audit, it is statutorily restricted only to the chartered accountant. Whereas internal audits, concurrent audits, due diligence work, bank finance work, or this kind of work, any kind of certifications, different certifications, are not statutorily restricted to chartered accountants. Now, those work which are not statutorily restricted to chartered accountants, the tender for such work, we can very well respond. No issues at all in this. Correct? Whereas those work which are statutorily restricted to chartered accountant, such tenders can be responded only if minimum fees is prescribed in the tender. If minimum fees is not prescribed in the tender for the statutorily reserved work to a chartered accountant, we cannot respond to such tenders. Now, there can be an issue. Suppose internal audit tender is coming, or concurrent audit tender is coming, and in that it is mentioned that only chartered accountant firms should apply. It is restricted to chartered accountant, but it is not statutorily restricted to chartered accountant. So we can respond to such tenders because that primarily this concurrent audit work or internal audit work is not statutorily restricted to chartered accountants. So this is a tendering guideline. Subject to that, we can apply for, as per these guidelines, apply to the tenders. I once again go, we cannot solicit the work by way of directly or indirectly by way of circular, advertisement, or personal communication or interview. So I cannot go on making a circulars and distributing it like pamphlet, make an advertisement in a newspaper, make a public interview. Suppose I am called, I cannot go on saying that no, you come to me, I'll solve your difficulties. We are such a big firm, we are doing this. I cannot go on doing this. And similarly, there cannot be a personal communication also, through which I can solicit the work. So there are all these modes are banned to us. We'll discuss the modalities of that. Clause 7 talks about advertisement of professionals and other achievements. Now, as I said, that we are not allowed to show the superiority. We are not allowed to solicit the professional work. Clause 7 goes in this line only further, saying that you cannot publicize your achievements or attainments or services or uses of any designations, expressions, etc. other than chartered accountant or other than recognized degree or any such diploma of institute. So on my professional cards, professional stationery, professional signboard, etc., I cannot publicize any other achievements or any other degrees. I can print on my card my degree, my chartered accountancy degree, my degrees from the recognized universities or government recognized degrees, then my ICAI diplomas, not ICAI certificate courses. So I cannot go on printing on my card certificate course on concurrent audit, certificate course on forensic audit. No, that is not allowed. I also cannot print on my card or stationery my social achievements or my personal achievements. Suppose I am a chairman or president of some social local club. I cannot print that. I am awardee of any good local awards, say Pune Bhushan or whatever it may be. I cannot print it on my professional stationery. So my professional stationery should be plain. It should contain only my firm's name, whether I'm partner or proprietor, my contact details, addresses, telephone number, email ID, website if it is there, subject to website guidelines, and my recognized qualifications which I have mentioned. Right? Other than that, I cannot print anything on my cards. So that is regarding clause 7, and this clause 7 includes a proviso, an important proviso. Now this proviso is a very relevant proviso. You can see on the screen. It talks about a member in practice may advertise through write-up, setting out certain particulars about his firm or subject to certain guidelines which are issued by the institute. Now, I have been in a limited manner allowed to advertise through write-up. Now, what does this write-up means? There are write-up guidelines, advertisement guidelines 2008 that will now be included in this Code of Ethics part volume 2. Now, write-up means writing of particulars according to the information given in the guidelines. Now, what is that guidelines? We'll see, but it can be circulated. If you see further, right, you can display of the particulars of these matters members or firms in practice. It can be issued, circulated, and published by way of print or electronic media or otherwise, including newspapers, journals, website, etc. Now, accordance with these guidelines, I can issue these write-ups in the print or electronic mode. Let us understand what is this write-up about. Now, I have just given you the old existing provisions regarding write-up because there are certain changes in these write-up guidelines. I have given you the existing provisions also and the new provisions also. Let me tell you that there are not changes per se. The only thing is that whatever existing provision, these are now made more emphatic. These are now made more straight. Correct? So earlier it was saying that write-up should not be false or misleading or bringing disrepute to the profession. Now it says that it should be honest and truthful. So if it not to be false and honest, untruthful, there's a complete difference in that. There can be a via media earlier, and now there cannot be any via media. If it is honest and truthful, it has to be honest and truthful. Now it should not be claiming superiority. Similarly, it has been claimed in mentioned now also. There shall be no exaggerated claims, no superiority or the qualification of the members. So I am a chartered accountant, I am FCA. I cannot mention there in the write-up that I have so much experience and I am doing so many things. Yes, I am 28 years in practice, fine, that is sufficient. So for long period of years and I have been doing doyen in the profession of these kind of things cannot be there in the website. Factual information, yes, 28 years in practice, that is sufficient. So no exaggerated claims can be mentioned or claiming that I am a superior to somebody. This, it should not be indecent, etc. It should not bring disrepute to the profession. So it should be decent. It should be decently prepared. So whenever you are preparing write-up, some caricature or those kind of things, because your fundamental principle, the fifth one, very clearly mentions that professional behavior is one of our fundamental principles. So this kind of a write-up, the facility is given by institute to make advertisement through write-up, but we should not make it, adverse use of it by bringing disrepute to the profession. It should not contain testimonials or concerning members or clients, etc. So I am maybe rendering service to a very renowned or the prominent client, but I cannot mention it in my profile or write-up, saying that no, we are rendering services to these people, or those people, or any other chartered accountant, senior chartered accountant, or any public figure might have said so many good things about us or our firm, but we cannot mention it in that write-up, saying that these kind of testimonials are there from the very reputed people from Pune, for example. So these kind of things I am not supposed to do in the write-up. So naturally, my write-up should not be violator of Chartered Accountants Act and regulation. It should not be, names of clients cannot appear in that. Write-up should not be of font size more than 14. So below 14 only I can make a write-up. Now, write-up should not contain any information of achievements and awards, except awards which are sanctioned or given by central government or state government or regulatory bodies. So any kind of such information or monograms, etc., I cannot have in my write-up. I can have, or I must mention membership number and FRN in my write-up. So what is this write-up about? Now this write-up means, friends, typically why this facility is given. Once we say that solicitation advertisements are not allowed, and now we are saying that advertisement through write-up is allowed. So what is this? To my mind, again, I think conservatively I am thinking on this. To my mind, here the facility is given to the members that whenever any factual information is asked to you by somebody to circulate it. Suppose tomorrow somebody asks me to submit a profile of my firm. I'm able to submit it, and that's why these write-up guidelines are there. Now that is nothing but profile which we prepare. Now when we prepare the profile of the firm, we should follow these guidelines, write-up guidelines. So this should be as per these write-up guidelines. The information should be honest and true. I have 4 chartered accountants. Now I must able to say which 4. Correct? Associate members are not chartered accountants in my firm, employed with my firm. And those who are taking assignments from me are not employed with me. So I must give a proper, true, correct, honest information in this write-up. So in a limited manner, I am allowed to prepare this write-up or profile and circulate it. Even I can print it in newspaper also. But you all know that if I print this, my name, address, contact detail, partners detail, firm address, firm offices. If I print this in newspaper, who is going to give me a work? So I'm pretty sure that work doesn't come to us by printing like this. I cannot ask anything else in this. I can mention the services rendered, but I cannot mention the names of clients. So there is perhaps it is only for the purpose of which submission of this profile this kind of a facility is given to us. Now, as regards advertisement, I can just mention, since Abhishek said, one case which had come before our bench. From a small town, a young boy became a chartered accountant, and he kept an office opening function. For that, he invited a local renowned person, I think mayor or somebody of that town. Now that mayor came and showered naturally the praise on this chartered accountant and saying that अभी बाहर किसी को जाना नहीं पड़ेगा, यही शहर में सारे सर्विसेज मिलेंगी आपको, ये भी इधर रिटर्न भी इधर फाइल कर सकते हैं, ये whatever, I mean आपका ऑडिट भी इधर करवा सकते हैं, all these kind of services are there. Now he mentioned that, and that next day that was printed in the newspaper in an advertorial column. It was not a news item. It was printed in an advertorial column mentioning the details, the speech of this renowned mayor or somebody. A case was filed by a local person against that chartered accountant, saying that you have done the advertisement. Indirect manner, it's an advertisement. The chartered accountant pleaded that I have not said anything, that other fellow said good things about me, that has been printed. But that was printed in an advertorial column. That was not a news item per se. And therefore, it was indirect advertisement by chartered accountant, and it went against him. So one has to be very clear when such kind of advertisements are, such kind of these functions are held. So press advertisements of factual nature, of change in address or change in the constitution are allowed. These commentaries are there in Code of Ethics. Public interviews also allowed, but I cannot mention the details about my firm and leading to a solicitation. So I cannot go on asking. I cannot say that हम इतने great है, हमने ये चीजें की है, ऐसा और किसी ने किया नहीं है. These kind of things I am not allowed. Greeting cards and invitations are generally allowed. As I mentioned, diploma courses can be mentioned on the card. Certificate courses cannot be mentioned. Description like president of so and so club, etc., or we are established since so and so year, that cannot be mentioned on my card, etc. Now, in my write-up, maybe this is a factual information, so established in the year so and so, that much factual information can be given, but on cards it is not allowed. Now, many people have a specialization in their firm, and so partners put their specialization on the card. That is not allowed. So if some partner is only dealing in ITAT, so ITAT lawyer or ITAT expert, or some partner is dealing in finance, a financial consultant, or GST, head of GST vertical, that kind of things cannot be printed on our stationery. So there are of course two exceptions to this, we will see in the subsequent slide, but these kind of things cannot be printed on our card. These are various events and announcements of the institute. These are now being incorporated in volume 2. Now, as I mentioned, there are certain prohibitions. We cannot print regarding if I'm a director, independent director in a company, a member of a political party, or a CSL, head of a CSL of any political party, or holding different position in the club, local club, president of so and so Pune Uptown Club, whatever it may be. I don't want to go in detail of that. I don't want to mention any club. So these kind of things cannot be mentioned on our professional stationery anywhere. Now, I have mentioned that there are two exceptions to the specialization, and that is insolvency professional and registered valuer. If I am insolvency professional and registered valuer as per the examinations which are conducted by institute through its bodies, RVO and IBBI, so that I am allowed to print on my card separately. I am an insolvency professional or registered valuer, provided I am qualified as per that professional qualification. So as far as qualification or of other member bodies, accounting member bodies, say where it is allowed if our institute is having the mutual recognition agreement with those member bodies. A Canadian institute has a mutual recognition agreement with our institute. So if somebody becomes the CPA in Canadian institute, so that kind of qualification can be printed on the cards. There are further clarifications which institute has issued in this volume 2. This is regarding sponsorships. Now, sponsorship is not permitted to us. We cannot say Pune Marathon or whatever Pune festival is there. So chartered accountant firm cannot sponsor any such kind of event. Only the events organized by program organizing unit can be sponsored by CA firm. But for that also, the institute permission or CPE directorate permission is required. Now, regarding sponsorship for CSR activities, now there was representation that if I'm sponsoring the CSR activity, my name has to be printed there. Then why there should be any prohibition for that? So printing the name in the CSR activities as regards the personal name printing. So I can mention CA Mangesh Kinare there, but I cannot mention my firm name in my CSR donations or sponsorships. As regards advertisement for coaching, as I mentioned, friend, these changes are nothing but at times some changes are clarificatory in nature. So this is a clarificatory change, or this has been brought in the volume specifically. Because ICAI has already made an announcement on 18th May 2017 that chartered accountant in practice, if he's allowed to do a coaching, he's allowed to do if provided their teaching hours are not more than 25 teaching hours per week. So if he's coaching that, doing a coaching activity, he cannot indirectly advertise as a coaching in coaching. Say for example, I'm coaching in one, I'm a tutor in one coaching class. Now that coaching class cannot advertise my name because I'm in practice. So I cannot do an advertisement as a faculty in a coaching class, because that also would be leading to my practice. There was a case in front of our bench only, where a person was saying, practice also and teaching in a coaching class. On a coaching class hoardings and banner, his name was there, photograph was there, and it was mentioned that so and so person, practicing chartered accountant, expert in taxation, so and so forth. Now such advertisements are not allowed. It was already there, announcement was there on 18th May 2017. It has now been specifically included in volume 2. In television and movies, we generally see that at the end, the name of chartered accountant firm, which is a consulting or which is a chartered accountant for production house, that name comes. Now those credits, the clarification has come that it is allowed, but it should not be in a different manner as compared to the other names. So in a similar manner, the name of the CA firm can allowed after TV, a movie or TV serial, etc. So that can come. I have discussed about interview. In interview, I am allowed to give interview, but it should not result to publicity. I should not say that I am so much expert. You can always come to me. In your interview also, such thing may happen. It had happened with me in 2012 when I was called in on Mumbai Doordarshan when service tax provisions came. And there was one question from public. Question was we were taking questions from public, and there the interviewer suddenly said me, "Sir, this person can approach you, so you can give your number to him so that he can approach this to you and for the greater details." So I said that time that I'm not allowed to share this. So there can be a tempting thing in your interviews also. Please be very clear that in interview also it should not result in a solicitation. Whereas in books and publications and articles, interview, I can mention my name, firm name also, but it should not lead to a solicitation or claiming superiority or showing that I am somebody great or some achievements are there. Similarly, in books, articles, and presentations also, my prefix or my mentioning of the fact that I'm a chartered accountant, CA prefix or firm name is allowed, but my professional attainments or superiority is not allowed to be printed in these books, articles, and presentations also. There is one important change which has come. This is a new thing, that is uploading of educational videos. Now, educational videos can be uploaded by the members, or in that educational videos, I can mention, suppose I am uploading my educational video, I can on the social media, because these days it is happening with a good intention. I'm not saying always it's the solicitation only. So, but with good intention also, I can mention my name and I can mention CA Mangesh Kinare, but I cannot write my firm name in that video which I have uploaded. So it has to be only in an individual name, my video should be uploaded. So I cannot mention my firm name. This is very important. Educational videos now allowed to be uploaded. Next change is regarding the advertisements of celebrations on Silver Jubilee, etc. Now, typically these days, firms become big, they are old, becoming older, and so they celebrate certain Silver Jubilee, Diamond Jubilee, etc. And for the purpose of communication, so that the people associated with that firm should come to know, they want to do a factual advertisement. Now that factual advertisement in newspaper has been allowed now. This is a new change, this is a new introduction, this is a new facility given, and I plead and I feel that conservatively we should take this facility. So it should be read in letter and spirit. The spirit behind this is that it should become of knowledge. It should come to knowledge of people who are associated with that firm of regarding such kind of a celebration. Disadvantage or adverse advantage should not be taken by claiming superiority in this advertisement. If such superiority is claimed in the advertisement, it will go against the spirit of this provision. Similarly, हर एक साल अगर कोई जुबली और celebration बनाता है, and he started putting an advertisement, that also goes the spirit of this facility which is given to chartered accountant. Similarly, there is one more explanation regarding the signboards. You all know that signboards, we cannot have a glow signboards or neon light signboards, large size board, like traders or other kind of people have it. Our signboards should be of a decent size, a standard size. It should not be a very big in size. But for the same provision, one clarification has been added. This should be done while keeping in mind the appropriateness of the signboard. Now, there is a possibility that in certain cases, or certain places, the signboard is not visible only, and some kind of illumination may be necessary. I am again telling that this is a facility again given. This is a clarificatory facility given, but this should be taken in the right spirit, and it should not be misused because it will lead to a violation of this code. So we should be making use of it in a right spirit and very, very conservative. Next provision again is something new. Coming in the television or coming in the films, giving interviews, broadcasting on the radio, etc., is allowed for chartered accountant. Was allowed for chartered accountant. Now we all know that new medium has come, that is an internet medium, and it is in fact surpassing all other mediums also. So now coming on the internet is also being allowed by this new revised code. So I can come as I'm coming right now on internet, on the program organized by others, and I can express my views, I can give my interview, I can make my presentations. That is being allowed. And here, while I'm doing so, I can mention that I'm a chartered accountant. Here I can mention my firm name also, right? But the exaggerated claims or the comparisons with others are not allowed. So I can mention so-and-so, I'm partner of so-and-so firm. But I can go on saying that my firm is doing this, so we are expert in this. Compared to all other people in Pune, we are so much expert. So these kind of things we cannot do when I'm appearing on the internet. I cannot do anywhere for that matter. Now friends, there is a subtle difference between this clause and the earlier clause. If you have seen in earlier clause, when I am allowed to upload my educational video, personal video, I can print my name, I can have my, on my slide say CA Mangesh Kinare, but I cannot have my firm name. Whereas when I'm appearing on the internet, as I'm appearing in the programs organized by others, on my presentation, I can have my name and my firm name also. So when I'm uploading myself, I cannot print my firm name. If my program or the program has been released or is run by somebody else on the internet, I can have my firm name in these slides. Now, if suppose Abhishek tomorrow circulates this presentation on the YouTube, now that is not my responsibility. I have not uploaded that. So even if I have printed my name, firm name, I have not printed my firm name. Of course, that's a different thing. But even if I would have printed my firm name here and Abhishek would have circulated it on the YouTube, I am not responsible for it because I have not uploaded this educational video. So that's a subtle difference in these two provisions. Now, regarding networks, one very important announcement which was already there of the institute, now it has been included in a volume 2. The association with network as a medium of referral of professional work is permissible if the network is registered with the institute, comprising only of chartered accountant or CA firms and governed by the institute guidelines. So I am not allowed to become a member of any network which is not of chartered accountants and which is not registered with the institute as per the guidelines. So people are becoming, this was announced on 11th December 2019. It was already announced, but it has now been included in volume 2. And the announcement was there in December. It does not mean that before that becoming of such member was allowed. Becoming member of such network was never allowed. So chartered accountants become a member of certain networks. People form local networks I don't want to name the network, but we all know that in such network, there are different types of people. There are electrical engineers, there are architects, there are lawyers, there are company secretaries. I have full respect for all types of people who are handling all types of work. But in such network, there are plumbers also, there are carpenters also. So many people are there. Now, the preamble of that network is we will share the works amongst each other. So today, if I have to hire a carpenter, then I'll take it from this network only. Today, I know that there is some electrical work to be done. I will hire the electrical engineer only from this network only. So similarly, if chartered accountants work come to somebody, then they will refer it to me only. So that kind of network, becoming a member of that kind of network is not allowed to us because it is not chartered accountants network. It is not registered with the institute as per its guideline. Now, this network need not be the physical network. There are various aggregator network also. Lot of phone calls we receive that share us your details, your firm details, so much fees you have to, nominal fees you have to pay. We will maintain our data. We will have a database of chartered accountants so that people can refer to that and so on and so forth. Now, that kind of a database or that kind of aggregator kind of services, we cannot give. We cannot become of that aggregator network also. So please remember this. As far as printing the name in the directories is concerned, although it has not been mentioned here, but it is allowed to us subject to the restrictions of, there are guidelines regarding restrictions for printing name in the directories. So it is allowed in a limited manner where such directories are open to all. Such directories are at a rate which is prescribed, which is common to all. There is no priority. I want to print my name in a bold or in a color, and therefore additional fees. That such kind of thing should not be there, right? So in a limited manner, we are allowed to print the name in the directories, but aggregator or website kind of a networks or any such physical network, we cannot become member of that network. Remember, becoming a member of any social club where the preamble is not sharing the professional work. मैं जा रहा हूँ वो club में and वहाँ से मुझे बाद में कुछ काम आ रहा है, but that's a different thing. A chamber of commerce, say any Pune chamber of commerce, for example, I am becoming a member there. As a result of becoming a member, I may get a work, but for the purpose of becoming a member, getting a professional work is not a preamble of becoming member, or referring a professional work is not a preamble of becoming such member. So I'm not allowed to become a member of a network. I can become a member of a social club where preamble is not sharing the professional work. Right? It can be a social work or it can be a work regarding the commerce activity. That's fine, no issues. Regarding logo also, the continuing logo guidelines are continuing. There is a prohibition on having a individual or firm's logo. We cannot use the emblem of CA or institute also, that is Garuda emblem, or I cannot have my own logo, only that CA and reverse tick logo. That too, subject to the guidelines, it is allowed to me. There is one more advisory which is being issued on 28th April 2020 on the website. It is there. I thought that I will take it here. Now, what was happening was in this COVID era, with the good faith or good intention, some chartered accountants started saying that we also want to serve these COVID warriors. So we will file free returns for the COVID warriors, say doctors, nurses, or policemen. We'll do that activity free of cost. Intention was good. But if it is allowed, then such kind of things will get repeated in future. And our regulations do not allow us to mention our fees anywhere unless and until there is a specific inquiry or such kind of tender which is allowed, where I can be allowed to answer. So I cannot publicize my fee. I cannot put a board outside. No, I can put a board inside my office. There's no issues. But outside, I cannot put a board, print somewhere, or send on WhatsApp that we are providing free services. Now, that type of things is not allowed, and that's why it is being clarified that quantum of fees, including free of charge. Free of charge is also zero. It's a quantum of fees, zero. So it should not be allowed to the members for providing their services. We cannot advertise that. This was regarding solicitation and this thing. The next aspect was regarding appointment as auditors. Friends, there's only one change in this. Instead of Companies Act 1956, Companies Act 2013 has been mentioned. But I thought that I'll take this clause 9 of part 1 because it is really very relevant. That if we accept an appointment without checking that whether the terms, requirements of section 225 then and now 139 and 140 of the Companies Act 2013 has been complied or not. Now, you all know that Companies Act requires that the appointment of auditors is done in annual general meeting. So there has to be a proper conduct of annual general meeting. In private limited companies, many times such cases happen. In front of our bench only such case had happened. There was nothing in the balance sheet. There was no issues at all regarding balance sheet, no problem. The chartered accountant signed properly, but there was a dispute. Subsequently, there was a dispute among the directors. The one director or one group of directors accused other directors of cheating them. And for that purpose, they said that you appointed the auditor of your choice. And for that, you didn't hold AGM also. So this chartered accountant was appointed without our knowledge. There was no AGM. So case was filed against the chartered accountant also. You did not check up whether your appointment was proper or not. So we must be very careful that my appointment is properly done or not. So our council guideline says that we should ensure that the notices of the AGM has gone or not. Secondly, we can take as a precautionary measure the copy of the minutes duly verified and signed by chairman of the company. Now, signed by one director, appointment letter is there with us, and many times we accept the appointment as it is. So please take care that whether my appointment is not in the hand of one director, appointment is in the hand of AGM, although it's a private limited company. So please take it on record that the proper kind of appointment has been done as far as holding of AGM is concerned, passing of resolution is concerned, everything has been done properly. And although it is not mentioned here, this is not to be taken care of only in case of companies. Please take care regarding all entities the public is involved, or whether more than one person is involved. You know, like trust, especially in case of trust, cooperative societies, etc. Please take the proper appointment, whether you see that whether you have been properly appointed or not. Please ensure that. Don't be in a hurry to execute the work. We get so much attached to the client that we want to do the work first whenever it comes to us. No, please check that. Ultimately, it will be unnecessarily problematic to you. Cases have happened in front of our bench only. And when you regarding Companies Act, there was a case regarding trust, similar case of trust. That trustees, subsequently a trustee group said that no, we are not appointed him. It is only some trustee who is, so one at times in trust, some people are completely dominant and they run the trust as they want. So other trustees wanted to take vengeance on him, that the trustee, and what they made scapegoat for the auditor, saying that he was not appointed properly, and there was no documentation at all. So please check your appointments. I thought that this clause should be taken, although there are not relevant changes as such in this clause. Next, certain changes in communication. The chartered accountant in practice will have to, it will be seen that he has committed misconduct if he accepts a position as an auditor previously held by another chartered accountant without first communicating with him in writing. Now, there are two, three important aspects here. One is, it is accepting a position as auditor. It is not stated as statutory or internal or anything, so it is applicable to all types of audits. Even it is applicable to stock audits, system audits, all types of audits, right? Number one. Number two, I would draw your attention to the position, saying that position as an auditor previously held by another chartered accountant. It is not saying previous year's chartered accountant. So in a tax audit, typically in 1 year there is an audit, second year there is no audit, third year again there is an audit. Or say third year also there is no audit, fourth year there is an audit. So fourth year, a person who is getting appointed must check that earlier when there was an earlier audit, and at that time who was an auditor, and he should communicate with that auditor the position which is previously held by a chartered accountant. Correct? So that is very important. Third important thing, communication is of course important. I'll come to that in slide because there are changes in that. But third important is that communication should be made before acceptance of audit. And a lot of issues happen in this. Of course, in UDIN era, perhaps it should not happen, but I'll just cite one case which had come in front of our bench. Typically in private limited companies, we do tax audit and statutory audit together. So the auditor was, earlier auditor did not want to do the work. So the new auditor was appointed, say on the 5th of September. Say tax audit last date is 30th of September. So new auditor was appointed on 5th of September. The new auditor wrote to the earlier auditor, say on 6th properly. The earlier auditor also said, no problem, my fees, etc. also have been paid. So I don't have any issues. You go ahead with that. It was done mutually. But you know that for the sake of our client, for the sake of our private limited company, because they should hold their AGM in time, whenever we complete the statutory audit, we put the date of August so that they will have a 21 days notice and all those things, and they can hold the AGM before 30th September. So this auditor completed the audit and put the date on balance sheet of 31st of August. Now, subsequently, there were certain issues regarding that chartered accountant, payment of some other fees of that earlier chartered accountant. And he filed a case against this new auditor saying that you wrote to me, you communicated with me. I also communicated saying no issues at all. But you communicated with me before, not after signing the balance sheet. So it was after acceptance of audit. It is not before acceptance of audit. So very important, friends. One should have a complete documentary evidence whenever you are accepting the audit on documentary evidence. Before that, there should be a communication. Right? I am not elaborating on this. समझने वाले को इशारा काफी है. So please have a communication properly and a documentation in this regard properly. See, the purpose of this communication, it has been mentioned that the underlying objective is that it is in our interest, a new auditor's interest, that I should know the reason for change, क्यों change हुआ है, what are the issues, is there any fact that I should keep in mind while executing my duty. So that is thing I should, that is the thing which I should always find out, and that is why the communication is there. So let us go ahead. Now, friends, you would have seen that nothing has been mentioned regarding the NOC. It is simply said that it should be communicated. So NOC कहाँ से आ गया? Now, I'll draw your attention to Council Guideline 2008. It says that a member in practice shall not accept the appointment as an auditor of an entity if an undisputed audit fee of another chartered accountant for carrying out the statutory audit under Companies Act 1956 or any other statute has not been paid. So, if I am appointed as an auditor of a company, I must first check whether the undisputed audit fee of the earlier auditor has been paid or not. If it is not paid, I shall not accept the audit at all. There is no question of NOC. I shall not accept, simply. Now, what is undisputed fee? Undisputed fee is a fee which has been accounted, right, in the accounts signed by both auditor and auditee. But this clause is not applicable to the SIC unit. SIC unit means the unit which has a negative net worth. Now, friends, your client might say that ये तो disputed fee है, no issues at all. But dispute should be properly on record. उसने खाली orally dispute किया है या एक mail डाल के dispute किया है, इसका मतलब वो disputed fee नहीं होती है, right? So undisputed fee ही रहती है वो, it still remains an undisputed fee. So the normal sequence is when I'm appointed as an auditor of a company, I must first check that my company, for any other person for that matter, as a statutory auditor, this clause is applicable only for statutory auditor, whereas communication is applicable to all types of audit. So here, if I conduct an audit under Companies Act, under the Income Tax Act, GST law, all types of statutory auditors are covered here. So if I am appointed as a statutory auditor or a tax auditor of an entity, my first thing is that I should check myself whether the earlier fees, undisputed fees, has been paid or not. If it is not paid, there is no question of any accepting or communicating also, right? But still, if I feel that it is planned, explain that ये pay किया हुआ है, बाद में payment हुआ है, then I can communicate with the earlier auditor. I should wait for reasonable time. Reasonable time can be, say, 15 days time. Now, after that, if he communicates that I have no professional objection at all, etc., etc., and I'm sure that there is no undisputed fee which is pending, then I can go ahead with that. If he says that my undisputed fees has not been paid, then I should confirm, then I will not take the audit. I shall not accept the audit. If its claim of undisputed fee is wrong, then the client has to prove me that it is wrong. Then only I should be satisfied. If he says that, if he doesn't say anything about the fees, but if he says that I have professional objection because I have been removed unduly, etc., etc., then it is up to me. I should assess the facts of the case, and if the facts are okay, then I can accept the audit. But in nowhere, if undisputed fees is not paid, I shall not accept the audit. Now, friends, if he says that my audit fees has been paid, but my taxation services fees has not been paid, there is no bar on my acceptance. there is no bar, because this prevention is only for the purpose of statutory audit fees, right? For his taxation work or any due diligence work has not been paid, there is no bar on it. But Code of Ethics says that we are chartered accountancy fraternity, we are brothers of each other, brothers or sisters of each other. So we should take care and we should try and encourage the client to pay that fees also. But there is no statutorily anything which is going against me as such in this. So please remember this provision. So where the NOC will come into picture? NOC will come into picture only where the earlier auditor is leaving, his statutory, his undisputed fees is not paid. He is leaving the work or he doesn't want to carry out that work. And mutually I have been appointed as the next auditor. Then I must be taking a documentation in complete watertight manner by tripartite manner or whatever it may be, so that subsequently he cannot say that नहीं मैं पहले तो मैंने दिया था अभी नहीं है करके. So client ने भी actually उसका plan देना चाहिए how I am going to pay it, and accordingly I am giving the acceptance. So there is no issue. I mean practically NOC comes into play only in these circumstances, rare circumstances. Otherwise NOC जैसा कुछ issue है नहीं है, right? So communication हुआ, problem नहीं है. अगर उसने कुछ नहीं कहा, I can go ahead with the work. If he raises an objection, I must take the factual situation into consideration. If he raises an objection regarding undisputed fee and if it is a statutory audit fee, there is no question of accepting the work. So this is a provision regarding communication. We'll just go ahead in this because there are changes as far as modes of communication is concerned. Now, why the communication is required? How the communication has to be kept with us? The code says that the member should therefore communicate with the retiring auditor in such a manner so as to retain in his hand a positive evidence of delivery of communication to addressee. So I should have a positive evidence of delivery of communication to the addressee, to the earlier auditor. Now, therefore, as of today of 24 June 2020, as of today, only two types of communications are permissible. One is registered AD, registered post by acknowledgement due, and second is hand delivery with a complete acknowledgement by the addressee on that letter. So only two types of communications are allowed. Courier communication is not allowed as on date, also in future also. Now in future, from 1st July, there are two additional types of communications are allowed. It is mentioned that email communication is not now allowed. But please read it carefully. Let's not take it in a loose manner. What does it say? Acknowledgement of communication from retiring auditor via email address of the earlier auditor registered with the institute or last known official email address. So first of all, my communication should be on the last known email address or email address registered with the institute. Last known का मतलब ये नहीं कि 2-4 साल पहले. If in a very recently, if client has made any communication with an auditor, then that email address I can take. Better to take email address registered with the institute. Institute will be giving such facility, perhaps of providing this. And very importantly, even if I just write an email to that person, that is not sufficient. What is mentioned here is acknowledgement of communication. So the other person should acknowledge your communication. It may be simply by saying okay or noted or whatever it may be. But unless and until such acknowledgement is there, this email communication is not the perfect communication. Please remember this, it is allowed, but it is subject to acknowledgement. The fourth type of communication which is allowed is by unique identification number, through unique identification number generated on UDIN portal. Now, Council has to issue guidelines in this regard, but I feel that this fourth one will put full stop to all communication issues, because this will become more foolproof according to me once such guidelines comes. But it has to come, we'll have to wait for it. Now, as I mentioned in the volume 1, the duty has been casted upon previous auditor to provide the information to the incoming auditor honestly and as per law. So this is the first time. Now, what is therefore the incoming auditor should do is, generally we write a letter that whether you have any professional objection, and if we don't hear within say 15 days time or 7 days time, we will presume that you don't have professional objection. In addition to that, perhaps we should also write now that if you have professional objection and you want to highlight any facts which will be important in discharging our professional duties as regards the client. If we can write that, there is definitely a compulsion on the predecessor auditor to write to you in this regard. Now, there are two situations where the confusions were there. Those have been clarified by the institute now. If I send a communication by register AD post, and on the acknowledgement due, the comments come that office was found locked, or there is no such office exist at such address, then I'm in a puzzle, I'm in a dilemma what to do. Now, institute has clarified that if such offices have been registered with the institute, then, or you have concrete proof on hand on the latest office address of that, then there is no problem at all. The communication shall be deemed to have been delivered to the earlier auditor. So this is a good welcome explanation which has been given. So this is all regarding the communication with the previous auditor. Let's go to the further concept, further aspect. Abhishek, you are there. I'll just take up to 7, 5, 7, 10. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Absolutely okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. 7, 10. I'll take another 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
So engagement in other business or profession. Now, this is another aspect where I think there are some changes or some clarification. As you all know, that chartered accountant in practice cannot engage in any other business or profession. But there is one exception to it. We can become a director simpliciter in a company. Now, that director simpliciter, which was there in a definition, now it has been very clearly defined in the Code of Ethics, Volume 2. Now, what does it say? Director simpliciter means ordinary or simple director who is not a managing or whole-time director and is required only in board meetings and not paid any remuneration other than the fees for that meeting. So I should not get involved in any of the affairs of the company. If I am a practicing chartered accountant and appointed an independent director or director simpliciter on a company, I can attend the board meetings and I can get the fees for attending the board meetings. Nothing else. I cannot be paid any share in the profit or remuneration for doing something. I cannot, as an expert, I cannot give some opinion and get a fee for that. No, it is not allowed. Then I'm stepping into the shoes of management, then I am not a director simpliciter. Very important if you are a director or independent director in a private limited company or a very small company. There was a case in front of our bench in this regard. There were, I think, hardly 5 directors or something. It was a reasonably good sized company. And one chartered accountant was appointed as an independent director on that. Basically, they wanted to have his good expert advices. Now, what happened was, other directors were not available and bank wanted 2 directors to sign certain documents. So one director who was present, he requested this chartered accountant to come with him and sign the documents. And this also chartered accountant, poor fellow, went in a good faith and signed those documents. Subsequently, there was some dispute. The other director who was not present here, one of those directors, was disputing director, was having some dispute with the company. And he charged the other directors as well as chartered accountant directors, saying that now you are also involved in this. So you have signed the loan documents. So you are involved in this activity. So you are violated this code. And the case was filed against the chartered accountant in this case. Now, friends, you all know that we may be tempted. People may, pressurize us. We have to stand erect. We have to stand firm on our view that we cannot sign anything except for the board proceedings, right? So please be sure, not uploading of any forms, not ROC forms also, not signing any check for that matter, or even a check requisition also for that matter, right? So please, checkbook requisition also. So please remember, we cannot sign anything. Then there was certain queries to the institute regarding if you are allowing the director simpliciter in the company, why not to allow non-designated partners in LLPs which are carrying the business. So in volume 2 now clarification has come. There is no equivalent of director simpliciter in LLPs. A member in practice cannot become a partner, any kind of partner, designated, non-designated, remuneration, non-working, non-remunerating, sleeping, whatever that kind, in an LLP which is not carrying the chartered accountancy professional activity. In a chartered accountancy LLP, we can become a partner, but other LLPs, we cannot become partner of any kind. So this clarification has come. Other clarifications regarding the involvement in a HUF. We all know that as chartered accountant in practice, we cannot form an HUF or we cannot be a member or karta of HUF which is carrying on a business. I can have an HUF which is making an investment and pure investment as per the factual situation. But I cannot have a business running HUF. Now, there are certain exceptions to it. There are certain compelling circumstances, and these are being considered. But what is the condition you see? A member in practice can become a member or karta of HUF doing a business, provided this must result from inheritance, succession, or partition of family. Only in these three circumstances, I can become karta or member of an HUF which is doing a business activity. Now, there also, I must take a prior approval from the council. After taking approval also, if I am a karta in the HUF, I must delegate all the work. I should not be actively involved in any kind of business activities of the HUF. And very importantly, in spite of taking all these precautions, permissions, in my practice, I will not be allowed to do the attest functions at all. Now, this is a very harsh and very strict provisions. Right? Better to not to become a member of karta of any kind of HUF for that matter, which is doing any kind of business activity. Because in spite of taking a permission also, we are not allowed to do a test function in this, our CA profession. So this is a provision regarding the HUF doing the business. We can become a member or karta in a very restrictive circumstances, subject to the prior, subject to not carrying out the activities of karta, and subject to the fact that I am not doing any attest function in my practice. So this is regarding the business of HUF. As far as other profession, other engagements are concerned, Regulation 190A and Appendix 9 describes what kind of activities can be done by the chartered accountant in practice. There are certain activities which can be generally permitted, and where there are certain activities where special permissions are required. Wherever there is a general permission, there is no need of writing to the institute. Wherever there is a specific permission, you have to write to the institute and get the permission from the institute. Right? I would just like to draw your attention to the last activity in general permission, that is owning agricultural land and carrying cultural activity, carrying out agricultural activity. Now, I will just express, this is my personal view, conservative view on this. Institute has allowed this facility few years back. Now, this is being allowed with a pure intention that if person is having ancestral land, or person is taking an agricultural land in his town, in his hometown or home village, right? And for the this thing and doing certain activity, that should be normally allowed. But there is a thin line of demarcation in an income tax. Also, we know when in an agricultural activity and in an agricultural business activity. So if I start doing a concerted efforts, acquiring the land, carrying out this activity with a complete constructive way, taking the loans, hiring the people, hiring certain machinery, taking certain godowns, and then trading this agricultural produce, then I suppose there will be some issues in this regard. So this activity should not become a major activity of practicing chartered accounting. Please remember that this is my conservative view. Next aspect is about the independence. As regard independence, one has to be independent in audit, carrying out expressing the his opinion on the financial statements. So what is, it should not have a substantial interest. Now, substantial interest has been defined under Appendix 9 to CA Regulation 1988. Now, substantial interest means if it's a company, I or my relative should not hold more than 20% of voting power, or in case of other non-corporate, I should not be having more than 20% of decision-making power. Now, this is existing provision. Now, in addition to that, there is a guidance note on independence of auditors, which I have already referred to you. I'm not going in detail of that. This is there for your reference. I have already shared this presentation with the branch, which perhaps will share with the members also. Now, there is a guidance note available to you. These are measures where the chartered accountant should take care when he's an auditor of an entity. I would just like to draw your attention to last but third, from bottom third one pointer. In case of appointments done by RBI CNAG, not to accept any other assignment in a 1 year from completion of the audit assignment. So we have to be independent, seen as well as actually internally also. Independence of mind and independence of appearance should be there. Right? This is their guidance note on independence of auditors. In this, there is also a last point you can see in the black font. The acceptance, if I am doing an audit of statutory audit of PSU or government or listed companies having turnover more than 50 crores, then my fees from the other services rendered to the same entity should not exceed my audit fees. Right? Then this kind of activity I cannot do. Now, what are the changes in this? The changes are that modification in the situation of conflict of interest have been now done in accordance with the Companies Act. We have seen the earlier slide, what is the conflict of interest, 20% and all. Now that has been aligned, it is there. Regulation cannot be amended without the permission of the Parliament. So it is there, but it is also being aligned now with the Companies Act section 141(3) provisions, which are there in the next slide. I am not going to read that. You also know it, but it is there in the next slide also. So it is being aligned with that. So whatever disqualifications are there are disqualifications for the auditor as regards the independence. Now, other situations where there can be a conflicts, those are remained same. For example, internal auditor cannot become a tax auditor and vice versa. So those are still there. And additionally, one more restrictions have been put. If I'm an independent director in a company, after resigning or after retiring from that directorship or after ceasing to be a director of that company, I immediately cannot take audit of that company. I'll have to wait for 2 years. So 2 years cooling off period is there. So an independent director, after ceasing to be a director of that company, cannot accept the audit for 2 years after his ceasing to be a director of that company. So it's a very important change which has come in the Code of Ethics regarding independence. As I said, in this slide, I have just given some provisions which are relating to the independence of auditor and disqualifications of the auditor because of the conflict of interest, because of the relationship, etc. It is there in the Act, so I am not again touching up because we are not doing any session on Companies Act per se now. Now there are other couple of changes which have happened. Rather, it's just the clarifications which are there. In the earlier provisions, current provisions, the insurance financial advisory services are allowed, including insurance brokerage. Now there were issues in the mind. Insurance financial services means what? Whether I am allowed to do an agency. So that's why it has been clarified now. That is not including insurance agency. Now what does that mean? What is the difference between these two? I'll just explain you very shortly. That if a client comes to me saying that this is my machinery or this is my family, or no, I want to take my insurance of my machinery or maybe his life or family or type of medical insurance. And these are the policies available, these are the products available, these are the companies available. So using your expertise, please advise me which is the proper one for me. Right? So, say for example, I am to advise in a what is that, profit policy or the term policy of the insurance. Now, whether when I'm advising it on the product or his financials. I'm not advising regarding the company. So I'm advising him and taking fees from him. That is the insurance financial advisory services. If I start advising regarding particular company, taking a commission from that company, it becomes an agency. So I am advising to my client. So fees also should come from my client. If fee starts coming from an insurance company, then it's an insurance agency. So that's a subtle difference between these two. The financial advisory services regarding insurance, I am allowed to do. Regarding valuation of shares and business also, valuation of shares and business or advice regarding amalgamation merger was allowed. It has now been restricted only to if you are acting as a registered valuer under Companies Act 2013, read with rules in that regard. So you have to be registered valuer in that respect. Then only the valuation of shares business for the purpose of merger amalgamation is allowed now. Next few changes we'll take in 5-7 minutes. These are not changes, but these are the aspects I thought that I will discuss with you. Charging the fees on percentage or on the basis of percentage or contingency. You all know that we cannot charge the fees on the basis of percentage or happening or not happening of certain contingency. बैंक में proposal लेके जा रहा हूँ, proposal sanction हो गया तो इतना fees, disburse हो गया तो इतना fees, नहीं sanction हो गया तो खाली project report बनाने का इतना fees. We are not allowed to do like that. Important aspect I would like to highlight here is even I cannot agree to charge such fees. So बहुत बार ऐसा होता है ना कि हम लोग फी नहीं चार्ज करते, but terms of term sheet हम लोग साइन करते हैं ऐसा कि फीस हम ऐसे प्रोग्रेसिव मैनर में या परसेंटेज बेसिस पे या हैपनिंग ऑफ नॉन हैपनिंग ऑफ कंटिंजेंसी पे चार्ज करेंगे. So agreeing to do that also will become a misconduct. That is against my code. I cannot do that. There are certain exceptions to it enumerated in Regulation 192 of CA Regulation 1988. I am just not going into it detail. It is there in front of your screen, especially regarding receiver, liquidator. If I am acting as receiver, liquidator, valuer, etc., I am allowed to charge. And whenever there is certain things, management consultancy or fundraising activities, certain activities. Say I'm doing a global international activity, and there the international laws allows like that. So in a very exceptional circumstances, subject to the council approval, these kind of things will be approved. Next is not allowing non-CAs or to practice or sign in his name. I'll just briefly tell, in a UDIN era it may not occur, but if I know that somebody is signing in my name, somebody is practicing in my name, and if I remain silent, I don't take action against him, it is against my code of ethics. I am conniving with him. So I should file the complaint with the institute. If possible, I should file FIR also in this regard. Certain aspects of certificates and reports I thought I will take here, because certain queries are there whether I can prepare this kind of certificates or not. So we may be asked to give a certain different certificates, a certificate of turnover, certificate of net worth, etc., etc. I'm not reading it, but very importantly, friends, we have a guidance note on reports and certificates for special purposes. It is there on the website of the institute. Please refer to that. I'll tell you, in that guidance note, certain illustrative formats are there. I have taken one illustrative format. It is there on your screen. I'm not reading that, but certain points I have underlined it. Terms of engagement. Very important that I should take terms of engagement in respect of such assignments. I'll explain you one case which had come. Now, turnover certificate was asked by PWD with the civil contractors. Now, one person was doing a civil contracts in his proprietary firm, and he was also having another proprietary business. I think it was trading business was there, or some trading in the household goods. Now, say grocery shop or something of that sort. Now, when the turnover certificate was asked, he showed entire books of accounts to chartered accountant, who was not his auditor, and that chartered accountant gave a certificate, combined turnover certificate. Now, PWD, when they scrutinized the data, they found that it was a combined turnover certificate. So they said that you are given a wrong data, and they filed a case against chartered accountant, saying that you have not checked for which this turnover certificate is required. Chartered accountant pleaded that it is not my duty. Now, friends, it is there in the guidance note that we should get terms of reference, terms of engagement, or engagement letter from the client. Why it is required, we must also ask. And if it is required, we know that it is required for filling up the tender. The tender conditions have to be fulfilled, and therefore I should certify only that turnover. Please go through this guidance note, which is very important. Now, in this, the information we should not compile. We have seen we should not be taking management responsibility. So we should very clearly say that information has been compiled by the management or client, and my duty is only to check it, either from audited statements, audited financial accounts, or if it is audited financial accounts, on the basis of a tally data which is up to so and so date, of which the trial balance I have taken on record, signed and kept on my record. So that must be very clearly mentioned in each certificate. Otherwise, it will create issue. And the last point in this certificate I wanted to highlight is, it is there on your screen, last point number 10 of that illustration certificate, restriction of use. I must very clearly mention where this certificate is going to be used, so that this certificate cannot be used everywhere and anywhere by the client. It is in our interest also. So wherever he will require the certificate, he will come back to us again. So please, it is there in the guidance note. Let us put it, in an emphatic manner. There is another kind of certificate which is asked to us regarding the project report, whether we can certify the project report. Many times this question is asked. Now, Kolkata High Court has also said, and as such, we cannot certify the project report per se, because my clause 3 of second schedule is a very important one. Grave misconduct. I cannot lend my name or name of my firm in such a manner saying that vouching for the accuracy of the projection. So when I sign the project report, I am vouching the accuracy of the projection. That I cannot do. In this regard, if the bank really asks for the certificates, there is a way out there. My standards on assurance engagement, Institute has published standards on assurance engagement 3400, which gives you permission of examination of prospective financial information in a very, very restricted manner. Again, illustrative format is discussed here. I am not going to go in detail. I have underlined the points where I think we must take utmost precaution. I would like to draw your attention to this last para of this certificate. First of all, I have mentioned here, underlined here, it has been properly prepared on the basis of assumptions. And the last line says that proper assumptions which are consistent on the basis of historical financial statement. Right? So the assumptions are, I have checked the assumption and these are the assumption and assumptions are reasonable. Right? That is one thing. I'm not saying projections. And lastly, I'm saying that even if the events are anticipated, hypothetical events in the assumptions occur, the resultant events or subsequent events or actual results can be different from the projections because other anticipated event may not occur like that, and there can be variation which are material. Just give you an example. Assumption maybe the factory will be working on 60% of the installed capacity. That assumption may be reasonable, I agree to that. But I am not agreeing to the projection. I am not vouching for the projection. I am just saying that the calculation has been done correctly as per that 60% installed capacity. I am not saying that events will occur like that only, because even though a factory might be working as per 60% capacity, tomorrow there might be strike, tomorrow there might be labor problem, material problem. So I don't know. So I am not vouching for the projection. I am simply vouching, saying that these are the assumptions. These seem to be a reasonable assumption, and on the basis of that, the proper calculations have been made. So please give the certificate according to this only. This is the standard which is compulsory on us. Next few three to four slides are there. I'll finish in 5-7 minutes. Financial reporting regarding certain aspects are there. I should not submit I should verify the financial statement, then only I should submit the report. I should disclose all the material facts. I should disclose all the material misstatements. I should obtain all the information whenever I say I'm writing that as per the information and explanation given. But many times no information and explanation is available with the client in writing. So please keep that documentation. I'll just highlight one case in this respect, which is a very eye-opener case for all of us. There was a company, a construction company, a small-time construction company, taking only 1 or 2 construction projects in a year. Now, in 1 year, they could not get any project. They could not get any project. So what they did was they had a surplus with them. So they invested in a mutual funds. So in that year, they had income only from that mutual fund in terms of dividend, and they had investment in a mutual fund as their major asset. Now, auditor audited in a normal manner and gave the report. Unfortunately, friends, there is an RBI guideline, RBI provision, which says that if in a company, more than 50% of income comes as a financial income and more than 50% assets are financial asset, that company becomes NBFC and it has to be registered with RBI. And if it is not registered with RBI, the auditor should make a special report, point it out to the management, point it out to the ROC, and point it out to the RBI also. And if he doesn't do that, it's a misconduct. So we are supposed to know the relevant laws. We are supposed to know the relevant provision. We are supposed to bring all the material facts. I cannot say, "Mujhe malum hi nahi tha." It is a material fact. It is a material misstatement. So I have to obtain all the information. And therefore, friends, it is very relevant for us to report in proper manner. Next is confidence, very important, confidentiality and custody of client's asset. There are 2 clauses in the second schedule only, disclosing information without consent of client. I'll give you 1 or 2 case laws in this. A person was doing a project loan for a client. So he took a loan to the bank and the bank asked for the information regarding the godowns and stock of the client. Now he gave the entire information in a very good faith so that the loan can be done early. Now, unfortunately, client was not a saint. वो कोई साधु नहीं था. उनको for some reason, for some illegal reason, he didn't want to disclose all the information to bank. Now, unfortunately, the chartered accountant disclosed all the godowns, and this client filed a case against chartered accountant. See, disciplinary committee does not see whether the जो file करने वाला है वो sant है, saint है, he is a big upright person or not. Disciplinary committee checks whether conduct of my member is correct or as per code or not. So this person had shared the confidential information without the approval of client. We can share the confidential information of the client only if it is statutorily required. Bank ने मांगा है मतलब वो statutorily required नहीं है. If bank says that as per RBI guidelines you submit this, then the RBI guidelines should be checked. If it is there, I can give it. एक eye opener case बताता हूँ आपको. See, there was a family. One chartered accountant was having entire family's files with him. Father, his son, and then his wife also, entire people. Now, one day that son's wife, the daughter-in-law came and asked the income tax paper from a chartered accountant. copies of the income tax paper. Normally she was coming, there was no issues, so he gave paper to her. Subsequently, it was found that there was some divorce petition which was going on, and that lady had filed an alimony case, and for that support she wanted the paper. Now friends, we treat one family as one client, whereas individual person is our client. Please remember that. So confidential information, unless the client says, we should not share with anybody else. Next, clause 10 is about keeping the client's money in a separate account and using it for same purpose. I would like to draw your attention to the last word, in a reasonable time. We should keep money in a client's account in a separate account. That I'll give you one case again in this because we'll have to finish it fast. Once the advance tax was to be deposited, now that money was deposited in a separate account by client. Separate account was maintained. So that money was, say, deposited on 1st September or so. That tax is to be paid on 15th of September. So chartered accountant also paid the advance tax on 15th September. But subsequently there was a dispute among the client and chartered accountant for some other reason, but client brought this thing in between. He said that I have given you money on 1st, you have deposited on 15th, so you have used my money. You have not used it for in reasonable time. Now friends, unfortunately in that account there were certain transactions. Although the balance was same, balance was available in that account, there were certain transactions in the account. So on first in first out basis, it will deem to have been used by the chartered accountant. I'm not going in detail of that case, but we must use the money received from client immediately as soon as possible for the purpose for which it has been deposited. So that is important thing. Regarding client's asset, I would just like to highlight one thing regarding digital signature. Please remember that digital signatures are custody or client's assets. We are keeping in our custody, then it should be properly kept in a custody and used also as per the instructions and approval of the client. We have seen administrative duties, administrative services. Please don't use it. Please don't step into the shoes. मतलब client के ऊपर rely करके digital signature use कर रहे हैं हम. So proper documentation. I am not going in detail of that because I am online. Proper documentation of use of digital signature as far as possible. He has to use it on paper. At least he has to show that he has used it in my office, whatever way he may have. So please keep proper documentation for use of digital signature of client. Last two slides I am taking and I'm finishing. While giving the information, I must always give a correct information. I mentioned that in my write-up. एक केस ऐसा भी हुआ था कि एक टेंडर भरा था, उसमें नंबर ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स एम्प्लॉयड इन अ फर्म 2 दिया था, एंड एक्चुअली 2 चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट रजिस्टर्ड ही नहीं थे इंस्टीट्यूट में. इंस्टीट्यूट में जब ये टेंडर वेरीफाई करने के लिए गया, इंस्टीट्यूट से वो मालूम पड़ा कि ये 2 चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट रजिस्टर्ड नहीं है. टिपिकली असाइनमेंट बेसिस पे हमारे साथ जो रहते हैं, हम उनका नाम डाल देते हैं. So that is not to be done because this is information is available to in the institute. So correct information is to be given everywhere and proper information, prompt information should be given. Last slide I am taking. Clause number 7, that is grossly negligent or due diligence. This is, I always call it as a mother clause. Chartered accountant will be held guilty of misconduct if he has not exercised due diligence or is grossly negligent in conduct of his professional duty. It is not audit, it is all professional duties. Right? So even if grossly negligent to theek hai, samajh sakte, even if he is not exercised due diligence, he will be guilty. So we have to exercise due diligence. 100% assurance wherever certificate is there, wherever reporting is there, there has to be reasonable assurance with the proper disclaimers or documentations available with us. That has to be there. Then only the due diligence will be deemed to have exercised. And in the second schedule part, part 4, clause 2, which says that we should not bring disrepute to the institute by our conduct, whether in profession or otherwise. So outside the profession also, we should have conduct. We should conduct ourselves in such a manner that we are not bringing disrepute to the profession. We should conduct in such a manner that we are bringing repute to the profession, and our conduct should not be of bringing disrepute to the profession. It is in profession, outside the profession also. Correct? So with this, I am just concluding. It is, we are supposed to be completely diligent and completely acting in such a manner that we are not bringing any disrepute to the profession. I am pretty sure that we all are following the code of ethics or ethical values in our life as well as profession. only at times perhaps in profession we are not able to demonstrate it. ज्याला मराठीत म्हणतात ते असलं पण पाहिजे आणि दिसलं पण पाहिजे, दोन्ही गोष्टी असतात. So we should able to possess it, which perhaps most of us and many of us or all of us are possessing, I believe, but we must able to demonstrate it also properly, and therefore all these professional duties should be demonstrated, should be done with due diligence, and in such a manner we should conduct ourselves that we are not bringing any disrepute to the profession. Then we'll be following ethics in real terms. There are certain changes or certain announcements of ethical on the website. I'm not taking it. So thank you very much. I'm sure, or I'm hope that my session would have added at least some positive value to you. Thanks a lot, Pune branch and entire managing committee chaired by Abhishek, my good friend. Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks all the participants for listening to me in whatever your busy schedule. And I hope any issues are there, I'm ready to solve, or any difficulties I can discuss right now, any questions we can have. Thank you, Abhishek. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Amruta Kulkarni here. Hello, Mangesh sir. Can we open the house for question and answers?
Yes,
we have few questions in the chat box. So
yeah, sure.
one question Puranik sir has asked, that the co-partner of HUF and CA in practice, not Karta, can he take part in the business of HUF, including representation of HUF to the statutory authorities, also maintain the evidence of accounts of HUF?
See, co-partners also, if the HUF is carrying the business, I cannot act as on behalf of that HUF. That is what provision says. Frankly speaking, even if I'm acting in a professional capacity, as a co-partner, I'm doubtful whether I'll be acting in a professional capacity or not. So according to me, at least right now, as the provision, we have read out that provision, member/karta. So member also cannot take part in the active part in the day-to-day activities of the HUF, which is carrying on the business. Now, representing it to the income tax authority perhaps itself is if you are doing a professional capacity, we'll have to substantiate that. Otherwise, it will amount to acting on behalf, actively participating in the HUF activity. That is to my mind. Puranik sir is very senior, so he knows better. He also knows better.
So one more question we have from Pankaj Kumar, and he wants to know whether a CA can certify or make the true copy of the balance sheet of a client for bank loan purpose if that CA or any other CA has not audited the said balance sheet. I mean, he just wants to know whether he can certify or make a true copy.
Which true copy? If it is an audited balance sheet and you are making true copy, then what is the use of it?
Not actually, yeah, because that in itself is authenticated.
Yeah.
Right.
And regarding other things, unaudited balance sheet, so to say, now I cannot make and sign an unaudited balance sheet per se.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But a provisional balance sheet with whatever guidance mentioned in certificate, guidance note on certificate and reports for special purpose, I can sign it. I have to make the report properly. What happens is most of us simply write it prepared as per books are presented before us. Please don't do that. Who has prepared it? The management has prepared it. What I have checked in it, I have only checked the arithmetics of it and the extraction from the tally data, which is being as on so and so date, of which trial balance is available with me. Only I am certifying that. So we have to be very clear what we are certifying.
Prakash sir wants to know whether we can submit quotation of fees to a private sector entity which proposes to appoint new firm as an auditor.
See, if there is any specific inquiry to me, it is not a public inquiry. If it is a specific inquiry, as regards tenders, the tenders thing will be applicable. So I'm not going in that. But if there is any specific inquiry to me and person wants to appoint me and specific inquiry has come, we want to appoint you in this regard, we want to have the highlights of your firm and what is your quotation, yes, I'm allowed to do it.
Any more questions?
Only thing is that I don't know, the council has not come up with such thing, but such discussion was there in past. That when I'm quoting, I must have a proper working and substantiation of that with me tomorrow if it is required.
Can certification of LLP E-Form 8 filing annual return with MCA amount to certification of figures by a CA?
Yes, I think because what we are certifying there, because why filing is required in that case. So I think we should be desisting from that.
So definitely with this
In my mind.
interactive session, Mangesh sir, thank you so much. Sir has also kindly agreed to share this presentation, which we will be
Already shared. It is
which
already
we will
sent.
be uploading at the Pune branch website also for the benefit of the participants as well as the members, those who couldn't be here today. And as sir has rightly said that we need to possess and also demonstrate. Code of conduct is something which we really need to imbibe, possess, and then demonstrate. So likewise, it was definitely an insightful session for all of us here today. Thank you so much on behalf of the entire organizing team. Thanks a lot, Mangesh sir. Grateful to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for giving me opportunity and hearing out.
It
Thanks a
was
lot.
wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all participants.